For overall questions, tech talk, and if you'd like to submit your reel for us to actually critique live, please see the links below and we will get to them in the order that they appear.
Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
Okay, we are here with Ernest Dios, who is in Germany at Trixter. And as everybody already knows, the great Tony Lyons works at Trixter, as well as your accomplice, Adrian, I believe his name is, if I'm not.
Adrian Pueyo.
We'll be interviewing him next week. So before we get started, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of give just a brief background?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, it's kind of a different background than other people out there. But so basically, I started like when I finished high school, I started studying like physics, the theoretical physics. I could not hold like the university life anymore. I wanted to do something more practical. I always had a love for computers and art, so I started to study media. Actually, very generally. Back then, there was no visual effects studies in Barcelona, like per se. It was something that it was done out there, like in other countries, not in Spain. So I stumbled upon like this media school that had like for the first year like kind of a multimedia postgrade that it was kind of a private course. And I took it and I got to touch 3D Studio Max and some compositing, After Effects, some editing. It was a little bit a mix of everything. And yeah, so I found out that was like actually very exciting to play around with. and I moved on to keep like studying these fields. And basically I managed to get into a compositing course that Carol, a girl was doing in Spain. It was something very new. It was done in combustion, actually. Imagine I'm that old.
Good old combustion, man. That's where I started.
Exactly. So that was quite interesting. So then I started working from there with architectural visualization. Actually, my background is of a 3D artist when I started. 3D Studio Max, V-Ray, AutoCAD a little bit. And then I started integrating these renders with Photoshop into real images. I realized that I had an eye for it maybe. And I jumped into commercials. At that time, still in combustion, After Effects. And then it came out like the first movie project that I could get my hands on. It was like a Spanish movie called 12+1. It was a comedy about kind of the story of Jesus Christ. It was like a metaphysical comedy, as the movie calls itself. And that was the first time that I realized, okay, we cannot do that in After Effects or Photoshop. I was there with a friend of mine, Pau Viladot, actually. And we needed to find a solution to work the visual effects for film that it's like more efficient than After Effects or something like that. So we found out like a nuke. Actually, we were looking into the FX PhD, with all FX PhD, and we found like, okay, this software, I believe it was version 4 or version 5 when we looked at it, can handle like the quality we need, like the format we need, the size we need. We can work in 32 bits in linear color space. That was exciting. So we decided to jump to it. And we did that movie, all in Nuke. We used also, we had some 3D in 3D Studio Max, Synthesize. Actually we did all the visual effects, 2 people. And from there, things started to ramp up, to get faster. No, Pau moved to London. He he get to know the supervisor of Automatic now. It's Sebastian Barker. We got a job there. Actually, Automatic Visual Effects didn't exist by then, so we kind of started working in that company that turned out to be a company now, I mean. And from London, we kind of took different paths. I moved to Berlin to work for the Post Republic, and that was like what it became, the German branch of Automatic Visual Effects. We started the company from scratch, actually. I remember when we were like 3 or 4 compositors and a few 3D artists, like they were in London. And from there, yeah, long story short, we got like a lot of movies, and my showreel became bigger. I could work for Trixter, for Guardians of the Galaxy. From there, it started to be even faster. Like I worked for Rise. I came back to Trixter. I got to be the lead compositor for the show we're running on now. And so yeah, it was kind of in a way a little go with the flow.
Yeah,
like
that's pretty much all you can do, really. You know.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of people wonders is how you start in a career like this one, no? And I would say that I haven't found like a common background for everyone. You know, it's a very international industry, and you can get to know like people from Russia to the United States, South America, Australia, from all over the world. So it's very hard to define, because I think that's what a lot of people ask me, is how you made it, no, to get into the big shows. And I found that it's very interesting that, no, when especially looking at your channel, like you realize that a lot of people have different backgrounds. There are the people that could study like at Scape or the normal workshop, and you know they got like already like from the studies, they got a position or an internship at least. Or there are the other people that started with small projects, independent projects, could make a kind of a showreel, and someone was interested, like, hey, this kind of works. I mean, how you manage to, with low budget, to do all these, and I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's universally though. I see that there's always the passion card. You know.
exactly.
You know, as a teacher, sometimes you can teach the daylights to somebody, and when you ask them, "Hey, are you doing this on your side?" You know, and they might even have an attitude that's not like, ugh, but they might have an attitude like, I want to learn it. I want to learn it, you know. And you're like, yeah, but you don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And I've had people after graduation admit to it. And then I've had people that have actually gotten angry at me as if I sold them down the river. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, really?
oh, yeah. It's... all I can tell you is it does come down to passion. It does come down to passion. It really, and you know what? I hate to sound like an elitist, because I had this sort of perspective towards compositors when I first started out in the industry. I was just like, oh, you're a bunch of elitists. That's why you won't get me a job. It's like, no, it's because you don't know the skills. You know what I mean? And I'm always in that battle between, oh, do you have an eye for it? Do you have an eye for it? You're born for it. I think sometimes people were just naturally gifted to just go into these things, and some just aren't. You know what I mean? So, go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, regarding that, I think that you can all train your these kind of things. No, it's true that there's people that is born with a gift, or a natural predisposition to have a photographic eye, but you can train it. And also, what I like about compositing is it really takes a huge spectrum of the talent of different skills. Like, of course, at the end of the day, it ends up to, okay, does it look good or does it not look good? But I met people that it's like excellent coders, for example, and they took more a TD approach, or people that has a very strong background in 3D, so they can communicate very easily with the other departments, and what we can do, how we can like solve using vector passes, AOVs, or you know what I mean? So I think compositing is fairly, almost every visual effects department or profession accepts a huge variety of talent, I would say. I would say so, and yeah.
There's also a fear you have to overcome when you're in the studio environment that you have to make it your own. You know what I mean? You can't be in that attitude where it's like, am I doing it right? You know, you have to have that artistic eye that says, I'm doing this pretty right, but I'm gonna get somebody coming over here telling me what's what and how I can improve, and I can take criticism, and I can take revisions, and make sure when I write that on a notepad what exactly it is I need to do and fix, that I did it next time I walk into the boss's office. You know,
that's true.
I've heard some horror stories of guys going off on their own. It is a servitude. It is a servitude personality you have to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a very. I mean, you always you need to keep in mind that you're working for someone. So at the end of the day, the director, or sometimes the high producers of the studio, have the last word of what looks good or looks bad, and it's you cannot take things too personally, because you're a service provider, no? At least that you're doing your thing, and if I'm happy to have side projects and do my thing, and you know, this is my thing. But also it's true that newcomers, especially juniors, can have that feeling of frustration very easily, no? Because it's but I prefer my version, not what, you know, they start feeling this frustration of you, at the end of the day, you're working for your comp supervisor, your visual effects supervisor, the studio visual effects supervisor, the studio director, and the producer of the studio. So you need to listen and try to, you know, what you say, like have some predisposition to accept criticism and deliver what other people want. So I'm trying to kill the glamour of the industry right now.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, how many people are under yourself, and what's the hierarchy between you, Adrian, and also Tony over there? Because I'm just curious. You guys got a lot of senior compositors there. Am I correct about that? Or?
It's correct. We're a very small facility, so we try to have senior positions only, actually, at least on the comm department. Now we will ramp up to, I don't know, maybe only Munich, only in the office of Munich, in the Munich office, like 20 people, 20 compositors, plus Berlin office that can be 20 more, maybe. So it depends the show. We grow up to be a lot more than that, but we used to. It's hard for us to be able to keep a desk, the hardware, the space for junior compositors. So, for example, we had a very talented junior compositor recently, Andrea Geremia, from Italy. Very, very, very nice guy. But it's not frequent that we have like that capacity. No, if you go to a studio, maybe, I don't know, just dropping MPC, maybe they have 200 compositors. So they leverage. They have a lot more, hierarchy and more like different positions to cover. Like they accept juniors, mid-levels, mid to senior sometimes, and senior and lead supervisors, etc. So for now, at Trixter, we're trying to, as I said, to try to get the senior compositors. And with me, for example, Adrian or Tony, like the relationship is a relationship of equals, no? It's like we all try to bring all our knowledge on the table. We share it in between each other. We approach like issues together, like, I don't know. Even if we're not in the same show, that's what a small company like Trixter maybe can allow you, small, medium size, it's not small, but allows you to create this environment of collaboration. And I think that's very, 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 very nice. I don't know in other big companies if you have like so many hundreds of compositors, if you can create that environment. No? So for example, a lot of the I will not say the pipeline, but some of the tools that we have to, I don't know, load assets in New York, I don't know, we use a lot like also Adrian Pueyo's tools, but are tools created inside the department by the artists themselves. And we have that flexibility. Of course, not everyone arrives and starts coding and do their own crazy stuff, but you can manage to bring everything you have there. That's something very nice. And with Tony, it's like actually Tony's sitting like right next to me, like on my back, but next to me. And yeah, it's like sometimes we're like even asking opinion about each other about how does it look for you, how this is, how will you approach this? So, oh man, I have an issue with this. Can you find, or do you know of any fast solution that can, take me out of the problem? So
you know what I admire about him is he's recently been giving me feedback on my newest reel. So I've been getting feedback from a lot of guys, and he words it so well. There's almost an art in the way he words things. Let's just say that much. And it's through many years of correction, professionalism, and just an overwhelming level of optimism that to me is inspiring. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of pessimists in this industry. I hate to say it. I've seen some, at least in Chicago. I don't know. I always used to say, why is it that really good compositors are so jaded all the time? And
yeah, that's true.
Even Tony's response was, look up stoicism, so. Yeah. And I was like, kind of like, yeah, I get it. I understand why you get there,
Yeah, I agree.
But to keep that optimistic, attitude through the whole process is, to me, a feat even as close as learning your craft and knowing your craft.
I agree. It's a matter of attitude, as we were talking about. Like there are people that are, I don't know, they can be brought down very easily, and or they get like something that I also admire from Tony. It's like it's very hard to put him on stress. You know what I mean? He doesn't freak out at all. And that's very good, and especially when you have clients like very, demanding, like you're working like for weeks straight, and it's changed this, changed that, and the deadline is approaching. You have production run looking at you. Your coordinator is there, like asking you your estimated time. But Tony is always cool, and he's always optimist, and he always thinks that can make it look good and satisfying everyone in the good way. It's not a pleaser. But
if you ever get it on tape, just film it with your phone. I'll post it on my phone.
I will do that. That can be fun. So yeah.
He just released a really awesome. I noticed he's pumping out a lot of these tools, which are awesome. I'm using his Black Point right now, which is absolutely incredible. I'm like, where's this training? Where is this training? Where are these? It drives me crazy. Got all these compositors around the world, and it's like, I was telling him, I'm like, I'm running ideas to teach. I really am. I'm like, I could do A, B, and C, but I'd be repeating what somebody else did. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to find something new and unique and teach it. So that's why I'm going back in, hopefully. So we'll see what happens.
I agree. But honestly, that also, like, if someone is starting to learn new, everything has been invented. It's not true, but I mean, we are always like redundant into the same kind of knowledge. It's at the end is math, vector math, and
grade nodes. Roto.
Exactly. Actually, the grade nodes. No. Oh. So what I mean is, we're building up into knowledge that someone has passed to us. No, it's like it's very hard to find like the to invent the wheel in an industry that is being so active and has so many talent. So I will say that it's not bad if you look for something that you found interesting, like, for example, you just mentioned the black match. You understand how it works, and then, expand on it. It's perfectly fine, especially for people that just start, that they see that, oh, there is a whole wall in front of me of knowledge, how I'm never going to catch up. Don't worry, it's like, it's always expanding in all directions. So everyone can, I don't know, you have curiosity about C++, now you have Blink scripting, and there's not much written about it yet. So
you guys have, I was going to say, you guys live in Shangri-La here. You live not too many far miles here from Switzerland, Austria. I kind of looked at it geographically. I mean, you got some beautiful sights, and you live in the town of Willy Wonka, right? Because that's where they filmed the red brick tops and all that. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, look,
yeah.
you know.
It's actually a very nice place. Munich is not so big. I think it has like 4 million people. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like not like definitely not like London or yeah. Actually, you have my house almost there.
If you'd like to visit him,
but yeah.
come and check out.
So
No,
actually, Trixter is there. Yeah.
I'm in Chicago. We're a little bit over 3 million, I think. I could be wrong.
Okay,
So
it's
it
more or
does
less
feel
the same.
small. When I go to New York, I'm like, oh my gosh, get me out of here, you know.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
comfortably quaint in Chicago when the weather's
Yeah.
good. But let's start out by talking about your beginnings here, because you didn't start out in Germany. You started out in did you say Barcelona area?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're moving through the map here. So you want to label or talk about the school that you went to in regards to?
Actually, yes. If I don't know if it has interest. My school was the School of Media of Barcelona. It's called IMAB. So it's the School of Media and Audiovisuals. But I would say that it's a school more specialized into like camera work, editing. I think they used to have, I don't know now, it's been a while since I was not there, sound editing. And the visual effects is touched, but I will not say it's very in-depth, at least as far as I remember. I actually was a teacher there, like a lot of years ago, like 8 years ago. And yeah, I would say that you can like, if you're really interested in Spain into the visual effects and you want to find a school, I would really suggest to go to UTAT, the school I passed the link. Actually, Adrian Pueyo and I are teaching there. This is a more specialized visual effects animation, animation visual effects video game industry school. And so
Is this an on-the-ground school as well as an online school, since the courses that you and Adrian are teaching are online, or is this just an online school?
I think we're opening them online. The school wanted to make them available online, especially because we want to also like have the possibility for people from South America that are Spanish speakers to participate in it, definitely. So I think yes, you can definitely do it online. It has an advantage, of course, if you can do it in situ. That is, we're gonna be there in the school, so you're gonna have like a face-to-face interaction. That it's always a little bit more, I don't know, personal, or I don't know how to say it, but it always is. The feedback is faster, and also you have the technology of the school. So we will shoot there our green screens. We will have a collaboration with the other masters of the school, like to get like DMPs, 3D for our compositing, and we're gonna make, we're gonna try to build like also a community that it already exists. It just means we're gonna integrate the people on the master into this UTAT family, and so yeah. But of course, it's not possible for everyone, and we're opening the course for online pupils.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that is right here.
Yeah.
And it's called UTAD or TAD,
Yeah.
I assume stands for something.
Actually, I don't know.
Is it? So here's your class. I will link it to the bottom for anybody interested, and it's Spanish speaking. It'd be wonderful if they translated English. I would definitely check it out. I took Spanish and I failed it, so.
Oh my God. I can teach you something.
Pollo, that's about it. Chicken. But yeah, I mean, this is I could see right here, you guys. Is this like you guys just talking? This is
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just kind of go. This is Adrian, who we'll be interviewing soon.
Exactly.
Just going over. Obviously, if I played it, it would be in Spanish. So.
Yeah, I think it's not that interesting. But if you go a little bit lower, you will see all the people that are going to be teaching. I think it's there in Claustro. There about.
Right here.
Yeah. Is there no link? No. Maybe lower.
Oh, we got to keep going. There we go.
Exactly.
Richie
So we have
Paramo?
yeah,
Oh, keep
Richie
going.
that works for the foundry, and yeah, is that link a little bit up,
Oh.
like here.
Right there? Okay, cool.
So a little bit lower, sorry. Where it says claustro, a little bit lower. Yeah, and I think
Oh,
this
right
is
here,
the
the link.
background.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
If you want to see, I mean, the interesting thing is we have
It's loading. Sorry.
yeah, no ways. I
There we go.
think we have people like from all the Spanish sector like working there. We have people from El Ranchito, from Entropy Studios. So I think it's quite solid. Like the people that are teaching, I will say it's not quite. It's very solid.
So you guys are the Spanish Lost Boys, huh?
Exactly. It's a Spanish gang. Yeah.
This name sounds familiar. I don't know why. Let's see who else you got here. Oh, cool. Lots of players. So this is almost like Spanish effects PhD, you could say, but
I
even
would say
better.
so,
I'm assuming, probably.
Yeah, I would say it is. What is interesting in the master is we're not teaching or the idea is not to teach new from perspective of we're going to show you how to use a tool that maybe FX PhD or online resources you can find on how to do this, how to do that in New York. So we're going to try to establish like how the compositor works inside the pipeline or the workflow of all the departments, no? And how, for example, what you will expect if you go on set, or what they will give you, like which material. So what lighting is going to provide, or what are you able to ask for, how deadlines work, how a production environment is. So I think that's the interesting part of it. Actually, is something that I found it's not easy to find online. No, like, okay, how a project works from A to Z in the visual effects industry. This is not something it's easy to teach if you don't have the environment created. No, even if it's in a university, but you have a project for real, and you bring all these kind of setup so people can.
What sort of management tools do you guys use in regards to time management and project management? Do you guys use, I forgot the name of the program. We used it in our college. We taught it a couple times. I can't remember it offhand, but it's just a software that organizes everybody's shots and so forth. And
for like a shotgun, you mean?
yeah, shotgun. That's what we used.
Yeah. Funny enough, at Trixter, actually, I think, well, we use F-Track. I don't know if I can say that, but I think so we're using F-Track right now. That it's basically, project manager. You can log your times, you have your tasks. Production have the list of, milestones, or you can see the status of every task, like, okay, the lighting of this shot is approved, or it's set to tweak, it's set to in progress, so yeah. It's a very interesting tool. I think it can be better, being honest, but, I think it's very hard to make a tool that works for production, for the artists, for the supervisors, like, in all the levels, like, as you would like, yeah.
And really that's the only way for any professional to really teach, is because professionals are going to have to be mobile, and the ones that really know what they're doing will be mobile. You see, that's the conflict I have. Chicago is so limited in the amount of VFX houses out here, yet I'm out here teaching. And I kind of came to the conclusion, like, well, if I'm going to continue to teach, I'm going to have to learn more. Hence, I'm going to have to probably expand and so forth. So it's just one of those realities that I'm transitioning my education for people to learn more to online. I've been teaching online for 15 years through Pluralsight and so forth. And it's just one of those things that it's just kind of like, okay, the only way this is going to happen, you know what I mean? Because it's the American, like, just even in the States, the education systems out here in regards to these VFX and game studios. You know, the teachers. There's some teachers that they just like, you know, they just get they get overworked and then they just say that's it. But then they're, as Tony had said, they're out of the industry for too long. You're out for a month and you're already a dinosaur. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just blows my mind. Well, it doesn't blow my mind. It's just reality of what it is. And then people get a little bit too comfortable as teachers. You know what I mean?
It's completely true. And the industry changes every day. And you feel that, or you get to touch that when you're in a production environment, definitely in like real project environment. So I would say that you're completely right. It's very easy to find places where the teachers are maybe a little bit outdated, or you know what I mean, or they have lost.
Well,
like
I don't blame some of them. They want to raise kids, but the reality is, and I've always tried to. I've always wanted to just basically be able to teach, and we try to. I mean, where I teach currently at Flashpoint. We strive so hard to do our best, and we've had kids go out and work at major studios. They're working at the major studios, you know what I mean? But let's face it, the people that really want to do this stuff, and this is why I tell my students, like, you're going to have to supplement yourself with online training. And you're gonna, if you really want to do this, there's no other reality. And I've actually, this last semester, I had a student who said to me, he's like, I don't learn by online. I learn one-on-one. And I said to him, I go, well, you're going to have a hard time continuing on in this learning experience. You know what I mean? If you can't do that, if somebody has to hold your hand throughout this whole process. Yeah. And online is basically, the reality is that there's no holding hands. It's all by passion that drives you to get through those classes.
It's completely true. I completely agree. You must be resourceful and find the knowledge you need online, because you're not going to get it like completely if you're not passionate. And I mean, you will say, like myself, I'm already like 36 years old, and I still like arrive home and the first thing I do is turn on my computer and look for, I don't know, you know, I had a problem at work, how I can solve this, or is there a better way, or I'm a little bit rusty in vector math or matrices, or you know what I mean? So it's very demanding in that sense. It's not an industry or a job that you can just, okay, I got the skills, I can work on it and, you know, do my hours, and you know what I mean? You need to be very passionate and keep track of the knowledge, I will say, or at least that makes a huge difference and you can feel it. Regarding the thing of holding hands, I would really encourage everyone to find a mentor, actually. Not to find a mentor for all your life, but if you're already in a company, like find a person that is good at explaining things and that has a good knowledge of the tool. If you then establish that relationship, like even if it's just sitting next to him in, you know, at the workplace, you will learn a lot faster, because it's a lot, I agree that it's faster when someone teaches you directly or explains you something directly than when you find the information by yourself. I don't know if you agree with that, because the relationship between teacher...
Some people might pass that information off as like, but if you listen to any of the common like pep talks for businesses and building your own business and being successful, the number one thing they always bring up, and it's true, and that's having a mentor.
I found 5 mentors.
I completely agree. It speeds up the process a lot, a hell of a lot. And if you're in a place that you're the one that knows the most, maybe you're in the wrong place. You know what I mean? It's, or at least it's that my opinion. It's like you always need to be challenged, especially when you're young. I mean, maybe there is a point in life that it's all right, but if you're someone young that's starting in the industry, challenge yourself, you know, like try to step up, like of your, you know, if you're comfortable now in this commercial company that it's very fast everything, but at the end of the day it's like not so technical, or you don't get to learn like the technicities of the compositing, and maybe you can, you know, look for something else out there. I mean,
because eventually, I mean, I'm a teacher, so I see the generation of kids that come through. I'll bump into them at train stations. I go, well, "How you doing? Where you at?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm working at a bank. I needed a real job." And I said, I said, "Are you making?" What's the weird thing is, every student I talk to or I bump into, they're doing something unbelievably successful, but it may not be necessarily what they went to get their degree for. And I ask them, and they'll even say to me at the train station, they'll be like, "Well, I need to get to that. I haven't touched my reel yet, but I think I'll get to it eventually." And I'm like, you just don't have the passion for it. I can't put a gun to your head and put passion to you. You know what I mean? And that's why when I have seen so many students that in the process of being encouraging, you know what I mean? It backfired, because what happens is they go out there and they go, "Oh my gosh, this isn't as fun as I thought it was, and this is a lot more work than I thought it was."
Yes.
And they turn around, and what they see behind them is a building known as the school that's made of bricks. So they can't yell at brick, can't yell at brick and mortar.
You mean?
They put their head down, they look at the one guy who said everything was going to be okay. Right?
Yeah.
So now more than ever, I learned my lesson. I tell my students, jump on FX PhD, go here, do this, get on it. You better have passion, to the point where I've even had students just start to comment on their comment cards like, you do a lot of like forceful this and that. And I go, I'm not trying to be that way. I'm trying to warn you so that, it's 10 years from now I don't get an email, it's just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think also, I will blame ourselves too, like the people that work on the industry, is that we have created this, or maybe it's the media, or because you work on the movies, but there is a kind of a glamour around it now. Like it's like, oh, it's so creative, and you get to work on these fantastic feature films, but I think reality is far away from that. It's a very stressful job. You get a lot of overtime, at least almost every big project I worked on. You need to move cities. I mean, I'm from Barcelona. I lived in London. I lived in Berlin. I lived in Munich, and I feel privileged because there's people that has moved to Canada. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's very far away from your family or your friends. You know what I mean? So it's very, very, very demanding, and as you said, if it's not something that you feel like you have this natural movement towards it, it's, I would say, like, yeah, maybe you can find something better. Honestly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, sir. And I hate to say it, there are schools out there that take advantage of that, and they make, there's two things, and one of the, I don't know if you've ever heard of this website called Collider, YouTube site Collider. No. They are one of the top, I mean, if you go on YouTube, it's like maybe 5 million views and so forth. I didn't know much about them until recently. They are really, they're a bunch of guys, and they're kind of making the whole VFX industry more mainstream, more than I've ever seen in my life. For the first time, you see people sitting, talking, and they're like, we're going to do this today. It's going to be rock and roll, baby. And it's like, and I'm sitting there like, first off, you're using After Effects, you're using 3D Studio Max. I don't know why you're using Blender. Those are not even in the industry, right? And I brought this up in a review on a YouTube site, and I got such flack for it on my site. They were like, it's like, they're great, what are you talking about? Don't bash them. And I'm like, and I took a second look, and they had some really cool breakdown stuff they do. And I don't doubt these guys are incredible artists. They're way better than me. I have no way up there as far as what they know and how they've done stuff. And I love their website. I love what they do. I love the fact they do a breakdown. But it kind of made me thinking, like, this is going to drive. And I asked my students, I said, have you ever heard of Collider? And all the room raised their hand, and they're like, "That's why I came here."
Just have to make sure you subscribe.
And then the epiphany happened. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've got a bunch of kids in here that are not supposed to be in here, and they're here because they saw this website and they thought it'd be cool."
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I would say that happens in any industry now. You have now these super mediatic people that are out there talking about, like, as you said, financial world, investment, visual effects, even, I don't know, whatever, editorial. engineering that they're very good at creating this, like this show, I will say. Like, hey, this is super cool, we're going to do this. And they speak very well, and they, they kind of make the show like happen. And it's, don't get me wrong, it's all this is real, but it's half of the reality too. I mean, there are moments that you get to work and it's very exciting, and when you finish the project and you're there and maybe you go to the screening and you're seeing your Spider-Man 2, like I recently seen, and you see, wow, this is looking fantastic, this is like incredibly good entertainment, and this happens too. But the other side of like being late at night, like you have a coordinator waiting for you, you have a producer waiting for a delivery, you still wait for the comment from the client.
I think that should be shot right at sunset, so you get that golden orangey
Miller time look.
Yeah, exactly.
To go home. This happens too. Like the call on Friday, like, guys, we need to come here Saturday and Sunday, and the moment that you're there and you cannot fix something on it, or your script is completely broken and you need to open it in a text editor and find the notes that are broken in a delivery time. This is also happening too.
We talk to any one of these people, they love it and they embrace the suck, so to speak. You know what I mean?
To be a little bit like a masochist.
Yeah, I was watching Stranger Things 3, and there's a great line at the end of that, and it's not no spoilers here, but the very phrase is, it was like embrace the pain, because that means you're out of the cave, or it's a great line. I'm like, that's
a
so
fantastic
awesome.
one, yeah.
Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but no worries.
It's so good. The VFX are so good. I keep telling everybody, like, gosh, if we could just get everyone to just make the stories this good, the characters this good, the VFX this good, I'm just like, I'm an old dog, man. I it's hard for me to teach in front of students that love superhero movies, because I cannot stand superhero movies, and I used to collect Spider-Man comic books. In fact, in my old house, I'm thinking about going over and visit here. There's a Spider-Man #1 up in the
way.
Yeah, it's actually up
that's cool,
in
man.
the crawl space with all the. It probably melted from all the heat. I don't know. But I'm just like, I was a huge Spider-Man fan, and I just can't get. Maybe I'm just getting old, man. I'm like these old dogs. I want the old cinema of the 70s and 80s.
It's all right. Also, not everything is about the superheroes. I mean, for example, we were working like in Babylon Berlin. It's a TV show, but there was a huge amount of the project that was like, make something look on the period that the movie should happen. Like, it's not tons of, I don't know, effects there and atmospherics and make something so flashy. What I mean is, like, big part of the work sometimes, and also that I think nobody tells about it, but I've been like recently like working days off, like removing people from plates, you know what I mean? and this is removing wires or making split screens between two takes, because the director likes more, the acting in this take of this actor and the other actor on that take, and you try to blend them together somehow. What I mean is there is a lot of effects that are not like, you see these Star Wars, like the nicest shots, and you say, oh, that's what I want to do, but you also do a lot of other stuff on the way.
Oh, yeah. And I know we're kind of like, I'm going to have to shotgun through some of your history here, because because of time. But in general, you started, just regardless before we talk about movies in general, you started out at a company called TMT, and then these are these just like independent companies here that were in Barcelona, or?
Yeah, so Class Barcelona was a little, we were teaching like visual effects, but in a very classrooms of, I think there were 10 people. It was more like, as far as I remember, it was more motion and more like, motion graphics, and So it was very small. TMT was a studio that, well, it changed the name by this time, that we built with my friend Pau, actually. And we tried to build a studio like ourselves, like something very small, like to do. We did some music clips, and then we got access, thanks to Pau, actually, like to this Spanish movie. And so it was very, very low key, not low key, but very personal projects, these two. And then Fake is a commercial studio.
That's a nice name.
Yeah, it's very nice. Actually, they do incredible things. I had a blast working there, but I don't know if I can say that either, but I was working there like a lot of hours. Like, it was common to have go there in the morning, have lunch there, dinner there, go home like way past midnight or things like that. So yeah, you need to keep your feet on the ground and remember that you are the best asset you have. So you need to really take care of yourself.
Well, I heard you guys are all gym rats. Is that true? You're all like everyone's like buff in there, and they're all going to the gym, and they're all eating right. And I forgot who said on the show.
Yeah, I'm happy that the tendency is a little bit more like that. Actually, in Trixter, we used to have on the heavy projects, like I don't know if it's every 2 hours, there is like an alarm, and we do some kind of exercise for a few minutes. You know what I mean? And you're right. I think younger generations are more conscious about this, and they exercise more, or they try to don't eat like all the time pizzas. And but I would really like to emphasize on that. It's good to be like, you're very passionate and you're until 3 a.m. in your computer, 3 or 4 or whatever, in your computer, and then you wake up early because you have a side job, but you're still not in the industry, and you keep this cycle going. Like I did that myself, for example. But I really remember that your body is one, and if your body starts failing, it's over. You know what I mean? Whatever you do.
Well, we had somebody, I forgot who said it on the show, and I'm going to tear this apart, but they said no one takes better care of you than you, so you have to tell your supervisor when it's like, I got to take a break,
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I was lucky enough to never be like pushed over the limit. Like I never been in a production that they saw me like completely destroyed and they say, keep going. So that's good, but it's true that, you need to keep an eye if you really need to have a break or you need to go home. Especially you were mentioning before, if you have kids, you have a family, you also need to put boundaries. Like, okay, I need to see my kid at least, I don't know, some hours a day, or I need this weekend off because I need to be with my family. It's not only about yourself, it's you need to take care of your family life or even, your friends and yeah.
Well,
I don't know if you agree with that.
Is Germany the Shangri-La of VFX? Have you found a place that keeps your hours low and you can go home and enjoy the family and all that? Or
I would say that now, if some people are out there looking for jobs, I would say that, for example, Rise Visual Effects is they are very conscious about overtime, and they have office here in Munich and in Berlin. Trixter is very, very conscious also about it, and I will say that you make extra time, but it's not like the horror stories I've heard in other companies like outside Germany. But I think Canada has also very good. They take care of it. Like for example, if you work more than certain amount of hours, you get paid 1.5 or even two times the hours. So production is like very conscious about, okay, no, go home, we can do that tomorrow, so we don't have to, overpay you or things like that. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the right reason.
Well, I was just hearing through. I think Trixter seems to be a really great place to work from what Tony, and I think it's it's not that you guys. It's people is like I remember going to a founder user group meetup in Chicago where I was hosting it, and I was talking to some big shot compositor, and he was very, very jaded, and and he was just like, it's like, well, you don't want to do the work, and like, it's like, and I was like, no, I mean, I love doing the work. When I worked on the commercials I worked on, I wanted to stay all night. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I've worked long hours in production before. I worked
of
in the
course.
game industry. We had crunch, those late
Of
nights with
course.
those cheap pizzas, I remember
Yeah,
those.
yeah,
So it's not a matter of being a wimp or something. It's just a matter of the human body and the reality of the need for, your wife, kids, it's a
of course.
necessity.
Of course, I completely agree. I completely agree. And again, a lot of times, I imagine for you was the same. Like you're like very late at night and you're trying to do something. It kind of doesn't look right, and then you say, okay, I go to sleep. You wake up next day, you're right there, and you spot the solution or you see the problem like super fast.
Yeah,
So
brain
it also
refresh.
like helps you be more sharp. If you're overtired and you have a bad diet and you don't take care of yourself, it's very hard to keep yourself sharp. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And yeah,
So,
but
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
would like to say that, what you were saying with Tony and being here, I'm happy that he likes it and that's what we're trying to do. And I think that's more and more companies, or at least I have the feeling for what I've heard, they try to build this. They call it how they call it, like culture. They call it
Culture, yeah.
yeah, culture in a way. Like it's you try to make like create a team spirit, and we hang out like all the time, and we even have like Thursdays. We get like I think it's one Thursday a month. We get pizzas paid for the company, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
show.
Moving on here. Rise. Rise is in Munich as well. And you said there's an office in Berlin.
Yeah.
I know you guys are. You were saying that they have more extensive hours there. Did you have a good time there? I'm assuming, or.
Yeah, the rest was a blast actually. When I went there, they just opened the office in Munich, so it was very nice too, because you could have that feeling of building up something, and they were very very. I remember like very careful with the overtime. So they didn't want you to work more than it was strictly needed, and they take very good care of you. I remember that, like, I don't know if also that can be said, but we had like this amazing producer that when it was too hot on the office, because it was summer, the aircon, I don't know, there was no aircon yet, or she was making us like, I don't know, like iced tea or lemonade, or it was very sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
And I would say that Rice is a very 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 good place to work for. Yeah, I really had a blast. They have a very nice pipeline, a Houdini pipeline, full Houdini pipeline. So they do lighting and everything in there, and it's it's the workflow is they have invested a lot of time into make the things their way. Like it's very specific, but usually you found like more studios like based on Maya, or but yeah, I would say that was very good times. But again, it all ends. Look, it all goes down into the same thing. Like you really need to like what you're doing. So because it's I don't know how to say, but it's not a job that it's gonna be like a central piece of your life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a job that maybe you have like 9 to 5, and then you go outside and whatever you do. It's gonna ask a lot of you. I mean, as I said, I'm 36-year-old and I'm still learning, and I'm still like, I need to. Every new version of Neo is like, okay, you need to learn something new, or I'm a Blender enthusiast, for example, or you keep track, like with now the Blender 2.8 and now the deep learning technology that you get like these fake deep fakes, and how to bring that into the product, into the workflows.
Are you a big fan of
Yeah.
Blender? I'm just curious.
I think it's surprisingly. I think it's very cool what they're doing. It's a software that evolves very fast. So if you take, for example, the version 2.8, I think was released the alpha like not so long ago, but I think now it's like the official release out already since 2 days or 3 days ago.
Uh-huh.
You have like it's a free software. I think it's 200 megabytes for Windows. Imagine that, 200 megabytes. You have from real-time rendering engine, if you have Cycles, that it's like a photo PVR like rendering engine that is super powerful. You can sculpt in the same software, texture painting. Of course, it has its limitations. I would say it has some simulation tools. It's not maybe the strongest part of it, but you have object tracking, camera tracking, one of the, I would say, very solid camera trackers out there. So I'm very curious where is it going. It's very nice. Actually, I've heard that certain companies are starting to test them, to test it. Because, I mean, you have unlimited licenses, why not? It's like...
money rules, money will play a part, won't it? In that whole...
Eventually, yes. Also,
I actually like Cinema 4D, German designed, isn't it?
It is. Maxon is a German company. Yeah.
And it never crashes. And then
Cinema 4D is a very cool one. I think that pricing-wise is a little bit... well, it's not the cheapest software out there.
Yeah.
I think it was like three grand, the full version. Wow. I cannot remember. But yeah, but for example, for motion graphics, you can get very fast results in very good looking results, not cheap results.
The basics, so to speak, It does, it gets it quick, cheap, fast without any headaches like mine. I really wish the folks over at Foundry would... Is it me, or is that Roto node, that Roto Paint node crash a lot on you guys, or is that just me?
I mean, it's quite a tough one. If you look at the script, like if you open it on the text editor, you will see like what a Roto Paint, the amount of lines it writes every time you make a clone. So it's a very, 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 very heavy node. Yeah.
They got to fix that thing, man. They got to fix it. I don't know what they got to do, but they got to fix it. It drives me nuts.
If they fix the scanline render, and they change to a new 3D system, I will be more than happy, because for me that's the most painful thing. It's
scanline?
Like, oh, come on, guys. It's too slow.
It's like, come on, this is the 21st century. Let's get this render engine up to boot here. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just,
exactly.
But I'm over here doing cleanup work on some green screen work, and it's like crash. I'm like, all right, back again.
Exactly.
But let's
have I don't know. You have Fusion, for example, that it's very solid on the 3D side of it, and so there's no excuse, And actually, the Foundry owns Model, for example. They already have like a 3D software out there that it's super powerful. So I cannot wait until they implement something. They try with the ray renderer, which actually we use a lot, because you can cast real reflections or ray traced reflections. So that's very, very cool.
Are you guys working on some top secret movie over at Trixter?
Actually, we're bidding on some interesting ones. But
I tell you right now, if I had my choice, sir, and I don't know if this is even on the menu, but man, I would love to work on Dune.
On Dune?
Oh man, they're shooting that right now in Jordan and then somewhere else. I forgot where, but
you know what I would like to work is on the TV show The Witcher.
Which one?
Have you heard The Witcher?
The Witcher.
The Witcher is there is a video game by CD Projekt Red. It was like one of the. It's as well. I think there is 3 video games, like 3 episodes, let's say. And oh man, that's fantastic! And they're making actually, let me check it out. They're making a TV show on Netflix. I'll send you the link.
I heard of it. I have heard of it. Isn't it a video game, or am I wrong on that?
It's a video game, and they're releasing. Actually, the guy from Superman is the protagonist, and they're releasing
Henry Cavill.
Yeah. He's a. Henry Cavill, here is the page. Actually, the funny thing is the game is based on a book.
The game is based on the book. The movie and the TV show is based on the game. Or is it the first the movie?
I think there is some, actually it's kind of a mix, because there are some characters on the video game that are supposed to be younger, at least on the books, and I think the TV show is more it follows more the books in that sense. But yeah, it's just because I really love it so much that I'm following all this news and yeah.
For me it's Dune. I just love Blade Runner 2049. I thought, man, I can't wait to see what this guy does next.
That's
Denis Villeneuve.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm not discrediting all of these shorts and so forth at the bottom. I mean, if anything, it's a testimony of what you had to do before you came into the big stuff,
I would say that something worth mentioning that it's not a triple A, let's say, was Monsters Dark Continent. I think for me that was like one of the leap of faith. Like we were a very small team and we had like massive creatures like coming out of the desert. Well, they were there on the desert. It was an action-packed movie with like it was very cinematographic in the sense that we have these wide shots with particles and dust and 2D elements mixed with 3D elements and these huge monsters that were like full of tentacles, and it was very, 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 very interesting to work on. And I don't know if that can help someone out there that wants to start on the industry, but I understand that everyone tries to get to the as fast as they can to the big movies, but I would say that a good way to start is try to find the studios that are a little bit like, not as flashy, or they don't have these flashy projects, and try to get in touch with them. Usually they have like, positions available or
you have to earn your right to move to the top, and you need to put in the time, and that includes the paint work, the roto work, the cleanup work, and then you move up to this, and then this, and none of those cannot be. There is no quick jump unless you're some super maverick that figured this all out on your own at home.
Exactly. Exactly. So basically, the trick is to get your feet into the industry, I will say. I don't know if it worked for you like the same. Once you break the barrier and you start working for these movies, it's easier to keep going in a way. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, because it's very frustrating, and I think on the questions that some people write to me and to Adrian, and I think to even people before in your channel, there's always, or at least I think there's always the question that says, how do you get into the industry?
Oh yeah.
And it's true that it's very, very, it's not easy. It's not easy, but keep trying, because once you jump the wall and you're on the other side of the wall, if you're passionate and you put your energy on it, it starts to work out, I would say.
What you're doing, which is sharing your knowledge to people, what I mean?
I think it's in this company, in this industry, it's very friendly, like the sharing of information. I mean, if you go to Newpedia, you will find tutorials, amazing tools out there that make your life a lot easier, and nobody's asking for anything in return. So it's very collaborative, no? I think that's part of the passion of it, no? A lot of people is out there out of passion, so they want to, hey, I found out this incredible way of tackling that or approaching that, so here it is, and I think that's lovely. It's something,
Okay, so getting into Guardians of the Galaxy here, we have a reel that you have on your Vimeo link, Ernest Dios. So just go ahead and play it through.
Yeah, actually that was a very nice project to work on. Like, it was the first project I worked for Trixter, and again it was very nice to work on For them, because I had the chance to work on the look dev actually of some of the effects, even being the first time I was there. So for example, this portal where the spaceship goes through, I was like from the very early stage of the development of the effect. And I remember like we were here with Mikel Corominas, I think now he's in ILM. He was an FX artist, and we were back and forth like how to do this happen, and then with the client, and yeah, it was very very interesting to do. I learned a lot. Actually, I could see how how unexperienced I was, and that's something fun, in the industry. Like, as you start, like, you get to a position and you say, okay, I'm doing fine, and then you just like accept a new challenge, and then you realize there's a whole wall out there that I don't know yet, and you keep growing and you keep growing, and that's fantastic. And that particular scene was very nice to do. Also, there is the shot with that was also funny. I think it's the next one to this one. No, this was very nice to work. This actually that was this one is it. So for example, in here we had like our matte painting department did an amazing matte painting, and we were like working on it, and suddenly we needed to adjust like the colors and play around in Newcom how to create this nebula, like this reddish nebula, and we added all this smoke on top, and we needed to play with like a lot of elements, like real elements, and that was like very very nice. And also have a shot to have a shot with Stanley was also very sweet.
Now, was this shot anamorphic? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So are you guys, when you bring in an anamorphic clip, is it already squashed? I'm assuming it's not squashed, and then you work in the 2.0 aspect ratio, which creates all your information squeezed slightly? I
mean, ideally, actually, now that you say so, that show was not anamorphic, but in other anamorphic shows we had, ideally you need to deliver the unsquashed image. So we worked all squashed, like for example, the 3D department will render like squashed, like like in the 4:3, let's say, and especially for to get the same stretch on the pixel, no, an anamorphic lens will be like almost 2 pixels square, like horizontally, no. Mm-hmm. So you will need to have like that feeling of how the plate has like on the CG and every single thing. So you will work like, maybe you will work in like a more 16:9 format for you to be able to judge, but you will always keep in mind that at the end of the day, the image has to be returned. Like,
so CG has to render, as opposed to just taking half resolution, because of the way anamorphic goes into the computers and renders out of the 3D apps and eventually gets ported over to the final, color timing. You're basically rendering. You're going to eventually lose some of that data in the squash, but you guys have to render it at 4:3 in all aspects, from 3D all the way through compositing.
At least it's what I would do, because or what we did before. Because basically, the issue you have when you work with anamorphic is like the pixel aspect ratio is different, no?
Yeah.
So it's not like only the image aspect ratio. Like all the pixels are not squared anymore. So if CG renders like the unsquashed or the 16:9, let's say, resolution, their pixels will be square. So you will never ever be able to kind of match like this feeling of non-square pixel. Gotcha. So you will need to get like the squashed image. Actually, a lot of applications can do that. Like, it's not like they need to do any dirty trick or anything like that. But yeah, I would say that will be it. Also, that will add a lot of issues. For example, if you don't work in the square pixel, so you have unsquashed, like how the rotors behave, no? Because you're working in a pixel aspect that it's not a square. So, and if you make a rotor that has a square pixel, like aliasing, how that will react. So I will always like to prefer to visualize it unsquashed, but work on the squashed image. You know what I mean? Actually, maybe when you have Adrian there, he worked on an extended version of the PG bokeh. So the core is still the PG bokeh, plugin, let's say. But he like adapted it a little bit for Trixter needs. So yeah, you can ask him like our defocus workflow.
Are you faking breathing here in the
yeah,
shot?
we do.
You do fake breathing, okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you at home that don't know what breathing is, it's basically when you rack focus, there's a little bit of like a drifting or zooming in or zooming out. And even on anamorphic, it does it more vertically than horizontally. So that's something they don't teach, and I think they really need to start teaching that more. You know?
Again, that's the kind of thing that makes the difference, no? Like all this knowledge of how a camera works or the lenses work, or I think that's very interesting, and I think it's underrated, especially for the people that starts in the compositing world. So I would suggest, like, yeah, watch reviews of how the lenses work, how the chromatic aberration, how the, for example, we're working on this show now, and I don't know if I can say the name, just, well, we're working on this show now, and it's funny because we realized that the channels of the RGB are quite like non-uniform across the different lighting conditions. So in the sense that I'm using like a high-pass filter quite often to like on the plate and on the renders and or the final comps, and I could see with the high pass where my render is too sharp on which channel is too sharp. You know what I mean? It's something that at the eye you will not see because you see the final combination of all the channels. But if you really like get into these technicalities and you start saying, okay, use a high pass filter, and when the high pass filter gives you a over bright image, is what it's telling you is there's too much detail on that image. And then if that, instead of over bright, is over green, it's telling you the green channel is a lot more sharp than on the surrounding. So I thought that was very, very interesting. Actually, I think I'm gonna make a tutorial out of it soon. I will send you the link because
yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm actually doing a training video called Know the Nodes, and I'm basically going through every single node and just trying to, in my limited knowledge, show what it does. And it's actually been very helpful for people. There's stuff I'm learning. I'm like, crap, I didn't know that was in the frame blend node. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know? I'm still learning like these things. You're very right. Like, or some node that you've never used, and suddenly someone uses it on a tutorial and you say, oh, that's interesting, it's a new way of that's very interesting.
Whenever I work on Alexa footage, I'm like, this stuff is so good, I mean, you can do so much with it, and the channels
I
aren't
really like the return on that you get on the channels, like other cameras that you're shooting with them and it looks fine, but for example, if you have a very heavy chromatic difference, it will add artifacts, or the sharpening filters of the cameras are way too strong. Of course, in the professional ones, you can tweak that thing, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you get some things that are like, oh, yeah, this camera again.
So this is just 2K resolution. All films are still 2K, and then I'm assuming you guys are slowly going into the grueling work of 4K with television?
Yeah. Actually, this is being quite... we're trying to resist this as much as we can, as the artists, at least. Well, but this is starting to be a reality, and yeah, we will need to adapt. Like,
where does 4K tax you guys the most? Where does it tax you the most in regards to the efforts that you have to push yourselves towards, as opposed to 2K?
I would say that I like to work in 4K for you have a lot more control into like edge pushes, because you basically. You're not into this binary system. You push 1 pixel or you push 0 pixels. You suddenly can push 4 pixels more, 4 pixels less. You know what I mean? Or you can erode like with a little bit more of sensibility, or your rotors can have like a little more like feather control or blur control. So it has good things that are at least things that I like. People will kill me for saying that, but the problem. The overall problem for me is the performance. When you're processing 4K, it's not double the size; it's 4 times the amount of pixels. No, it's a quadratic thing. So everything you do takes 4 times the amount of time to calculate. So imagine this on render farms. Imagine this on server space, caching, localizing your files, it can become more and more tedious. And of course, this is techie talk, I would say, like we're talking about now, but sometimes it's like it's give it for granted that I know it's a little bit slower, but so the deadlines are not like growing with the format, you know what I mean? So
and then
also,
you got
like,
4K
example,
rendered through a
for
scanline
us,
render node too, you know.
Also, you have the situation that the 3D department will need to render 4 times, like, you know, the amount of pixels. So it's also slower to get like iterations on the 3D, for example. It has other good things, like, for example, your vector passes are going to be more accurate, or as yeah, well, on the good side, on the 3D, you will not need to sample per pixel that high because you have, you know, your image is bigger, so less sampling. So maybe you can compensate that with the amount of pixels. But yeah, especially, I don't know, with 4K is bad, but I imagine if you go to 6K, it has to be terrible. The new performance itself, you know what I mean? I mean, I cannot imagine how working in 6K can be for, like, I don't know, using
all this
IDK
trouble because you're
stacking
trying to
or-
sell 4K televisions at Best Buy and all these other appliance stores.
Also, I have to say that there is a trick that some of these TV shows are upscaling. Like they use something like the TVA scale, like a vector interpolation to scale up the image. So not all the shows that are shown in 4K are made really natively in 4K.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Well, let's
But this is the secret, so we cannot tell anyone.
let's go into questions here. I know we're jumping around a lot here.
Yeah, sure.
This is I'm going to tear these names apart. Awaz Sabare. What should new junior compositors do to get a job in the industry?
Yeah, you
Or
see,
some
that's
advice to new junior compositors to get a job?
okay. I think a new compositor has a very big challenge respect a 3D artist. For example, any kind of 3D artist, I will say that it's very hard to get your hands into material to make a showreel, no? So that's one of the things that for me was very hard. Like I remember, like, okay, I can shoot this and try to remove this or try to adhere this, but you're doing it with a limited amount of resources. And of course, you know what I mean, it can look a little bit amateurish. Or you know, it's normal. You cannot do like everything. And so I would say, like, if you have the time, get involved, like, if you're in, I don't know, if you have a university of cinema in your city, or you have, like, I don't know, whatever you can get your hands into, like, proper material that has been shot, like, with love, try to collaborate with these people. Also, remember that networking is very important. And networking, I'm not meaning like launching, like, because that happens to us. Like, I'm just a compositor, like, I'm not even a recruiter, and I get, like, on LinkedIn tons of, can you add me to your network, whatever. And this is not what it is. It's like, get out there, help the people, like, you know, that they are on the same level like you. Like, I don't know, if you know a director, or there's a production, or you go here to Artela, for example, and they have this project, like, I don't know, I have here, I'm looking at it right now, and they are looking for compositors and to work for free, but you can see that the material they're working on is very solid. Actually, I can pass you the link, maybe. Do you know Artela?
I taught at the largest film school in the world, Columbia in Chicago. And that's where Steven Spielberg, cinematographer, and James Cameron, cinematographer, came for. And we had some of the best cinematographers to this day. The best cinematographers there shooting what are called practicum films. So anybody that, you know, find a local film school, but don't just settle for the VFX, you know, shop around a little bit. Look for practicum movies, which are usually the senior level movies, which require people to earn their right to be director, producer, or cinematographer. You're going to get high quality footage shot on the Red or Alexa. And that's the stuff that you can say, even if you say, like, hey, do you need cleanup? Do you need a set? do you want me to enhance something? They'd be like, well, we're too worried about doing something that dramatic in a low budget movie, but yeah, if you can, maybe 1 or 2 shots, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember like working with people, like helping them in like short movies for their career, like, and that's the thing. You need to get yourself out there, and sometimes that gets a payback that you cannot imagine. Like in the sense that sometimes you get into this, you get to know this director that maybe he has a movie next on and he wants you to be there, or you meet people around the way that suddenly this guy landed a job in, I don't know, in Trixter or whatever, and then he can say, hey, I know the recruiter, and they asking if there's more juniors available, or if I know someone, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So never underestimate the power of networking. I used to, when I was a teacher, I used to say that sometimes you land the job easier when you are in the right place at the right moment. You know what I mean? It's not about like having like the most skills in the world. It's like, you know, you're there when people need you, and that pays off at the end. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the second thing is like, don't get too frustrated, because the hardest part, I really believe that, is to get your feet there. So it's like an inverse curve, no? So you have a very steep step that is like get into the industry. Once you're there, it starts to get a little bit easier, especially if you're passionate and you know what you're doing and you listen and so, for example, I don't know in Chicago if you have these things, but for example, I don't know. What I mean is for example, here, I'm sure in Chicago, the Foundry make a roadshow, no? So they show you like the new news, and it kind of becomes like a way to network, like all the companies are there and all the compositors and even Mari artists or model artists, and you know, you get to have like, for example, I remember the last roadshow, and there were like some very young people there, and Tony Lyons was there, no? And then suddenly they realize, oh, Tony Lyons is here, or Hugo Guerra is here, and they get to talk with them. And maybe Hugo even, I don't know, have like, hey, I have this project going on and I need a hand. Would you like to maybe like, you know, give us a hand with these shots, even if it's not paid, but maybe you get to, you know. So never underestimate like the power of going out there and trying to meet people and you know what I mean?
Another resource to meeting people, surprisingly, is Facebook group meetups. There is Nuke Foundry, and there's also Nuke, and those have a combination of 14,000 viewers there, and you will see posts. Mihai is awesome on there. He gives constantly. You just see all the people on there that are the givers, and you know, God bless them. I just see so many people giving really great feedback. Even when someone gives a stupid question that you're like, that's almost like, come on, don't you know this? You know, every one of these guys responds, okay, what are you doing? All right, let's help us out. And you have conversations with these folks, not to like, you know, bug them for jobs necessarily, but you make connections and you learn from them. It's a great resource, you know.
It's incredible, and I would say that the community is not toxic. Like, you know what I mean? It's very eager to help. I think we're very even like, for example, the situation we are here now. We barely knew about each other, and we're trying to to talk and to share our experiences. So that's exactly. Get yourself out there. Get to know people. Get to talk with other people, and you will learn at least something. And if not, you know, you never know when someone like, you know, you get there and the recruiter of company is there, and you get like, okay, can you show us something? And then maybe they ask you some technical questions, and you know how to answer those questions. And for example, it's also very good. Like if you're in Spain, for example, we have like it's called Mundos Digitales. It's a show, no? Like all, you know, there are speeches and people talks about the new technologies, the new movies they work on, but they always have like the recruiters of the companies out there. And and don't underestimate the power of being there and talking face to face with a recruiter, and maybe there is a supervisor of a show that is making a speech there, and you kind of get to know him. So it's not, the internet is fantastic, it's great, but also to get to know the people personally also makes a difference, I would say. And then you need a showreel, and to be a compositor is very complicated, as I said, to get a very good showreel. So try to collaborate in all the projects you can.
Well, that's Tony was telling me. He was like, you've got some good stuff here, but it's not. You've got some stuff that's industry stuff, with Sam Jackson, and you got some stuff here that looks really good, and you got some stuff that looks like okay. And he's like, take everything out of there that has the slightest idea of I did this on my own, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it wasn't a collaboration, and it didn't feel like a professional collaboration. Like, get it out, even if you think it's good, even if it is good, just pull it out. So he had me totally revamp it, and man, I when I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, like he's so right, we got Vortex Show here. How to deal with, and I get this a lot, I noticed. How to deal with the redistorted vector blur and defocus order of operations, which, it's funny. I'm sure you're already aware of what this guy is even stating, because I remember one guy came up to me at a studio and he's like, you ever use a spline warp tool? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, are you one of the guys that says you know it, but you don't? And I just said to him, yeah, I'm that guy.
That's a funny one.
He just knew,
Yeah. That's a funny one. Regarding the technical question, this is, I think it has been one of the problems in compositing, has been existing forever now, because basically you have an order of operations, and that's not true in real life. Motion blur and defocus happens almost simultaneously. It's the same light, and the same lens happening at the same time. So what we try to do is we render the motion blur on CG directly. So we get the real motion blur from the CG department, rendered in the image. Some people will say, oh, that's crazy. But then how you work with your IDs, and then we have cryptomats, and we have different other approaches, more or less, that work out. But actually there is no magical trick to do that. And sometimes I'm even myself resampling the depth, I'm pre-multiplying it, soften it a little bit, you know what I mean? So it's a nasty thing. But what I would suggest you is to the people that ask the question is try to render the motion blur out of the 3D. Also, because the vector blur for me has used to have an issue that is. When you get the information per frame, you don't get the subframe sampling of the image. So if you have an object that moves erratically between two frames or too fast between two frames, the vector blur is not going to give you a soft curve blur as much as you will need. If you really calculate the subframes and you get the motion blur out of the subframes. So. I don't know if that helps. But
yeah. I've come to that conclusion that vector blur is for something of conservative motion blur when needed, but most of it's in-camera renders and needed, and then that allows you to not worry about this double operation that happens, and you just move over to using your Z-depth pass to do the focus stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Also, it's true that I think this is gonna be solved soon. The problem with working with anti-aliased passes versus aliased images, this needs to be solved in a more elegant way that we're doing now. I'm looking forward for the deep to move to a true deep compositing stage. I hope soon. because we can see the potential that that has, no, like the idea of having like not a single value per pixel of color information, no? So you have like multiple samples in every pixel, like what's the object in the foreground, in the midground, in the background. Well, you can calculate as many.
Or are you referring to those new cameras that are like the sizes of buses that actually can record the, oh.
Yeah, that's super cool. But I'm talking like when you have a CG render and you render the deep information. Imagine that you have two objects like A over B, and they're moving very fast. If you have motion blur applied to them, you will get like a single RGB information per pixel, no? Like the color of the pixel. But with deep compositing, what you will get is like, okay, there is this color information for the object on front. There is in a certain distance from camera, the second object that has this color information, and the output is the blend of the two color informations. But you still have like a range of, for example, if you want to grade the object behind it, like the object that is on the background, you still can regrade it using deep compositing. Like I think Beta developed it.
So is deep on its way, but not there yet in regards to being fully like powerful?
Yeah, I mean, we use it a lot, and a lot of the times when we have like, especially FUR, interacting, FUR is correct? FUR?
Yeah, FUR.
In FUR, interacting with objects, we render it a lot of the times in deep, so we can, if we need to re-render, I don't know, we have like, I don't know, an animal, any animal that is holding something, and you need to change the object. If you need to re-render all the FUR with the object, it's very heavy. So if you use deep compositing, you can just render the object as many iterations you want, but the path of the FUR will be like already there. So so it works. It's very nice. The problem is computationally you need a lot of calculus to do that. So the computer gets very, very, very slow. Actually, for Captain Marvel, we used it a lot to
That's why no one does any. Nobody does any training on deep because no one can shove that many gigabytes of files up on a server.
Yeah, exactly. and you don't get the access to that. I mean, you need to really need it, like, or to be in a production, in a very heavy production, to be able or to have the need to do that. No? For example, imagine that in Captain Marvel we had that situation, that she has this photon blast that she shoots, but if we needed to render all the passes that were interacting between each other, all the smoke, the volumetric effects, and the little twirls, and every time that there was a change by the client, that would have made us like making a lot of iterations and a lot of data created. But in a deep way, we could like, okay, when the client like the dynamic of something, that's okay, that's locked. So we will need to render the other elements, and with deep we could merge them together like in a quite successful way, you know what I mean? Without caring like, okay, there is an object in front, there is an object behind, how we blend them together, or, it's like, so I think that's actually the future, like it's the present actually, but it's gonna be seen more and more, it's getting more accessible actually. The new Nuke 11 it has a lot of deep tools that are quite powerful, and I think that's gonna get bigger and bigger. Also, it has the advantage that you can render any object that is occluding another object like completely. It's not semi-transparent. It's not gonna render the information behind. So it's even cheaper in render or in data space than having background and foreground rendered. So it has some interesting applications. Like we're still like working on it's techie talk.
Why don't we end with this last question, because you only had 3 questions, and we'll leave Adrian's questions to him. But why is the German VFX scene growing so fast?
Okay, that's a tricky question, and I would like to be very positive about it, but I will say that it's more a political question. For example, now you have like a lot more subsidies, I will say, in Germany. that it used to be. Also, I think the situation of the Brexit is not helping, like, to the UK industry, or companies are a little bit like skeptical of what is going to happen. So the other hub, like the other country that had subsidies was also Germany. Like Munich, I think, has quite a big subsidy system. I'm not very sure about it, but as far as I understood, it is like this. For example, I think now ILM is opening an office in Australia, and you will, why Australia? No, like I mean, apart that they have already an office here in London, in Europe. But I think Australia is like releasing new subsidies or new helps to the industry, so it's an interesting.
So it's a chase to the bottom again, so to speak.
I will say so. Also, the talent is attracted to Germany again. So a lot of people likes to work here, especially Berlin or Munich, are cities that are very nice to live in.
Now, I have a question for you. Brexit. How is Brexit going to affect you guys, and when is Brexit finally going to get done to whatever it needs to get done? You're like,
I don't know what's going to happen, actually, and I think nobody knows. That's why the situation is like a little bit, it's like up in the air now. It's how is the UK going to be able to give this tax discounts or this help to the industry when they're by themselves without the UE? I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen. But it's true that companies try to be flexible, no? So they don't like to feel stuck in a place that they cannot like attract people to work for them, or they cannot get the project. So I say, like, I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna be. Also, the other problem is a lot of the people working in the UK in the visual effects industry are not from the UK. So how is gonna be the visa system working? Are we gonna need all visas to go there? Working visas, I mean, I don't know, and how hard it's gonna be, how easy it's gonna be, because it's quite a big mess, I would say.
wow.
But yeah, for example, now we have Rodeo opened in Munich too. We have a Scanline that was used to be here, and Rise opened here in Munich too. But I don't know. I hope like more companies are gonna like be more attracted to the continent. Also in Spain, it has grown a lot, like more like from studios like Ranchito, for example, is quite big. Ilion is quite big in animation. So yeah.
So how about your homeland, Spain? How is anything happening there, or is it just like where I'm at in Chicago, where it's kind of like, eh?
Actually, it's getting super strong. Like we have studios that are getting like very, very, very big. As I was saying, like El Ranchito is doing amazing stuff. They work for Game of Thrones, and they're getting like a lot of attention. They have a lot of talented people there, like people like Javier Roca, like he was comm supervisor at Weta, and I think now he's comm supervisor at El Ranchito. And so it's attracting talent, and I will say that maybe it has like the advantage that it's not such expensive country like in salaries or. So I don't know, that maybe is a political reason, but yeah, it's kind of growing and very, very, very fast. Very, very, very fast. Also, I mean, the boom of Netflix or these channels like Amazon, Prime, Netflix, all that, it's giving us like an opportunity to work in a more wide spectrum, no? Because nowadays you have, like, for example, a German production called Dark. It's a TV show that.
Oh yeah, I was poking around on that on Netflix. It's supposed to be really, really good. I haven't really. Yeah. It's just not really my taste. I don't know. Just something about it just seems kind of dark. I don't know.
I think it's about time traveling. I don't know. I haven't watched it, but you know what I mean. It would not be so common like 20 years ago that the German production had a TV show had like so many visual effects and companies like involved, like Rise, you know, and Babylon Berlin was like quite big too on the visual effects weight. And so I think also, like, you know, the visual effects are getting like everywhere. Like you have from the commercials, TV shows. Also, I met a lot of people that are migrating to the video games, not compositors, but 3D artists, because it's booming everywhere, like the entertainment industry. You also have like India, like Bollywood is like making like incredible, like crazy visual effects movies. China is jumping in like very fast. So yeah, I think it's getting more wide. I remember like before, like you could work like for the 5 major production companies.
I hope it doesn't
but
become
now,
graphics design. Like here in the States, graphics design, finding a job in graphics design is because it's so oversaturated with the market. You know what I mean? At a time, graphics design, even web development, was something that was considered to be like, oh yeah, it's pretty hard to do, you know. And then everyone went to college for it, and now it's just it's a very tough industry to get into. You know, my friend of mine who used to work for Apple, he struggles finding work in what he does.
That's crazy.
You know,
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now that could be Chicago. I don't know. It's just it could be just
No. I think you're right, and this is going to happen too, because as you said, there are more and more schools or universities that are teaching visual effects or computer arts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that definitely is going to happen. I mean, 10 years ago, the offer of artists like was not so big compared to the growing demand. But we need to get ready for also the saturation of the market. And for now, I think it happened everywhere. Not like even like if you're a software developer.
Film is a perfect example of it. There's so many websites. So much, hey, I want to be a filmmaker and shoot this and shoot weddings and do this and do that. And it becomes, and even what I notice when people go into the industry, it's not a matter of like the way that you work day in and day out. It has this sort of militant reality of the unions when you're working as grips and gaffers, you know what I mean? It's like, you got to be there on time and do this. And that's important to be on time and do another job. But it was a mentality I started seeing teaching at one of the largest film schools in the world. That was like, we're going to ship you back, soldier, if you don't want to go to war. It was this weird sort of like, if we got another guy in the hallway just waiting to work for free, and it was that kind of like, gosh, this is just so oversaturated, and there's so many people that want to get into it. You know what I mean?
Definitely, and that can happen. Like, I think it's starting to happen, definitely.
Well, it's approaching the 11th hour in Germany, so we are going to end this. It's been a great 2-hour interview here.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's cool. It's awesome. If you guys would like to, if you're Spanish speaking and you want to learn some amazing training, if you go to, and I'll have it listed at the bottom here, www.u-tad.com, eStudios, Master Profession. I'm going to tear this apart, but anyway, just click on the button at the bottom and definitely check out this training. Get yourself these are some serious high rollers, and to me, this is the next level that's going to go, in my opinion, beyond what is effects PhD as far as online training and so forth, and maybe even escape studios. I don't know.
Maybe, hopefully.
I appreciate you coming on, dude. Is there anything you'd like to say before we cut it loose?
No, thanks for having me here, Matt, and like for everyone that wants to get into the industry, remember that it's possible, and you just need to be very passionate about it and persistent. So go for it.